Yes, as a quick addendum, I mean, again, this is for people on the. There was a discussion over our day and autism versus CONFAS and autism. And of course, because one of them is alive, you can stick a camera in CONFAS's face, and he'll have the classic autistic expression and mannerisms. So you can go to CONFAS and say it's not the case, but if you go through a clinical pathway, not being a doctor, I'd suggest he probably is. So Confucius is interested in understanding how the world works, and one of the things he may be less interested in is, frankly, women, because that's the case for me as well. You do actually go to one of these conferences to. Unfortunately, in my case, I speak to women because they do actually come at from different angles on a biological basis. So one of the things we couldn't work out in the political theory sense in Birmingham is you read Pincore's book and you look at the people going along with it and you can say, okay, well, they want money. So that's pretty obvious, isn't it? So if I was corrupt, I could have gone along with John Cotton's patronage network and I would have been a lot better financially than I am now. So if you were bent, you go and grab the equity and go along with that kind of nonsense, that you would be paid by the regime or the blob or whatever you want to call it. But because we're intelligent and not going to let people be robbed by cultists, that was a problem. So we can't actually really do that now. But of course, because I'm a large adult man, of course, what I do is do this kind of stuff, isn't it? Think about physical aggression and arresting people under the law, because that's my trade, putting through witness statements, which involves, that kind of aggressive inference. But the one I did actually partly miss. I was late to, unfortunately, so my apologies for my disgraceful behaviour, was Art in the Post-Cultural State by Lola Salem. The military strategy, I think, all of this, by the way, is down to the lack of faith, effectively. So the lack of Christian culture just makes people think, well, there's nothing transcendent, so why build for the future? There's no point. And with the state of the country, it's dysgenic, effectively. So the country is now in a state where nobody particularly wants to carry it on. So you want to remove people, so the country itself is more pleasant. There's safe places where people are now being kept out of if they're from other parts of the world, so the British can know they're safe and actually have military protection within their own state. And this is where we've come from. So the solution is you surround Birmingham with just existing military assets. So you put an artillery piece or something, stick it in Birmingham, and put a crew by it and say, well, if someone says yell, you start shelling. So you do it in a really crude caveman-like manner. But just as I've climbed Maslow's hierarchy of needs off my own back, they've done nothing to help me. We clear the country out via that method. So Birmingham is now our industrial base, prisons there, all the nasty stuff. So the rest of the country can start to withdraw the nasty stuff towards that city, because John Cotton wanted it. He's told the world that the world is come to Birmingham, get your equity. So there we go. John Cotton is responsible for all that. So I'm just agreeing with the boss. But our strategy is over time, right? So you pay a tribute to the city's gunsmiths. So the gun quarter, of course, in Birmingham is one of the city's more famous aspects. So the Mercian regiment is still there, we're told, still part of the British military tradition. But obviously, if there's a hostile war versus Russia, do you want to actually have your factory workers being comprised of people who are attacking us? It's probably not a good idea. So these people need to be removed so we can start getting industrial capacity back and jobs for the country, this kind of stuff. Getting Ed Miliband's throat off the North Sea oil so we can get that kind of stuff. Sovereign wealth fund for the British and positive future for the country. But one of the things I just cannot do, I think I may do, but I don't currently have the mental capacity, is to make things pretty. So if you can make things feminine and beautiful, you can think about a multi-generational canon, effectively. So a beautiful ornate thing, I'm sure you can think about lovely Christian imagery you want to that thing, just pointing at Birmingham, and the trigger is of course going to be from a certain place to the west of Scotland. So if the British are ever not happy with that place, someone can just blow it sky high with this armed cannon which we staff 24 hours a day, and triggerable in a sort of dead hand sense by the British. So that's going to be all the nasty stuff we don't want. For the rest of the history is going, and if it gets out of control, then the last Englishman can take it out, so we can secure our islands. If you think about this in political theory terms, it's quite good. So if you think about military strategy, it's just deterrence. So we could do this, but it's not exactly a difficult logistical challenge for the army, is it? It just needs political power. And if you don't want that, then bugger off, please. I mean, rather than having our children being killed or attacked, please just leave the country under your own power. Don't wait for the state to do it. Don't wait for to be explicitly told we don't want you. If you're hostile, just go. Just go. The money's going to dry up anyway. But in the interim, the problem is just total lack of authority. So the current position is Burnham should just be calling a general election. We're being murdered in the street, rapes and horrors daily. This cretin is dithering about, playing with computers and the docile press, because they're not going to discuss Crenshawism or this kind of thing, are they? But the only solution is the king. So if there's no continuance between the old world and the new, because the king has betrayed and has surrendered, then that's the backbone of the British goal, isn't it? If you have no leader, then you have no spine, do you? You're just a sort of a deracinated individual, regardless of ability, floating around in the historic ruins of a prior civilization. But if, given the current state of plays, that cannot last. I mean, these children are being booed in the streets. So if there's a positive vision that starts with people from Mercia saying, well, King Alfred would not have been able to hold the place in the current regime. It's been invaded under the cover of night, using the technology. That's clearly what's happened. A wave has hit the island. So if we're going to push it back out, I'm afraid Mercia is done. We've lost it. I'm out. I can't do anything. But we've got the rest of the country. So in a guerrilla war, we won this place. So this is ours. I don't think the guys at Green Lane are going to be that motivated. One of them had a heart attack when we caught them via satellite last time. So if the ECHR is trying to block email accounts, then the Sovietisation of Birmingham is now countrywide. And if you think about the implications of the ECHR trying to block British citizens, then there are serious implications, aren't there, for clearly everybody in the country, if not Europe, if not the world, etc., etc. So we have got to a point where just observably, based on the evidence chain coming through this thing, that the state has now effectively broken down. If you are trying to be law-abiding and decent, the state will just attack you, so you have to get away from it. But the good thing I'm saying to colleagues in Scotland is we can have this sort of grand strategy scheme for Birmingham, but because of the devolved parliament, I mean, because it's not first past the post, it's I forget the voting system, but it's fairly easy. I mean, if you have a low voter turnout, you can gain seats. There's all sorts of positive stuff you can do, of course, around the local area. And if you want a local area candidate, some of the state around here is not great. But you regardless of the problem in Edinburgh, of course, it is the problem the country has. So it's a university town with an airport, so that's already a serious security risk. But the good thing is, you can do, if you go into the echoes of the English Civil War panel, this is basically just the English Civil War in reverse. We're just waiting in the cold for Charlie to show up and have an adult conversation, and he's not. So it's just a race against time to find him and put this to him, and just see what he says. But you're having the Deborah Agentiarism of King Charles. So does King Charles block his subjects via satellite as well? Is that how it now works? So does Deborah Agentieri have Charlie's permission to do that, or is this a badly behaving woman in an office? This is the sort of question now that the remaining British have to work out, given that this is now just demonstrably the case. Right? So again, at the end of the recording, as I go out and resolve other matters, if this is coming through your computer screen and you're thinking, well, I don't know who this bloke is, but I'm probably not actually up to doing this kind of stuff. I don't actually have these capabilities. Well, just remind yourself that in Birmingham, there is a law firm with my late father's name on it. Okay, so you could physically go in yourself, so go into McGrath and Co.'s buildings in Birmingham and say, well, can you have a look at this recording? Can this chap have a solicitor's referral outside of your firm, please? And just record what they say. Right? So you can play a choose your own adventure game in Birmingham, just play along at home. But when you do that, you'll find that Birmingham is probably sort of North Korea-like. The conversations that city are so awkward, and the state regards them as being so likely to lead to physical violence that the legal process is now totally broken down. So that their housing stock cannot physically be compliant with central government guidance. The people who can do the job, right? So again, a laptop totally secure, still got this, could log on via the same technology that lets us do this kind of stuff, but I can't attack people because we haven't got the authority of the state to do so because of this kind of stuff, right? And even if we did, the process of following the mechanism of the state is turned into a sort of a Tolkien-esque murder factory, effectively. So we're just creating people who are going to attack us, this resentful mass, and just the eunuchs are in charge, pumping gas into it because they want a debased British currency. So this is what Tony Blair and Labour have done, and the people trying to fix this are again an elite unit, so a small number of people. You can fit a lot of people into a large conference hall, international people as well. But nobody's interested in Birmingham because it's such a shithole anyway. It's not a particularly interesting city to look at for much of the world. But if you actually do so in a political theory sense, it's interesting. So you've got this huge nest of corruption, but it's interesting in the sense that this is very reversible. If you have a positive vision, you can just sort this out and push it back. So I'm not standing here and ranting all day. We're actually getting things done. Since we've actually now spoken to people in the British Army about drones and the coming, the world we now live in, I would remind people that FPV drones are totally legal. So for £1,000, the Czechs have got sort of a pair of goggles that you put on your face, and it's like one of those children's toys, VR headsets. But because this is a flying drone, you've got a Hawkeye vision of your surroundings. So I can now see above my location. I can see all around this place with a drone that is silent. You can't hear it, but I've got now perfect vision around me. If you've got defences, so you're a bloke with a legally obtained rifle, then compared to a bureaucrat, you're going to be a formidable team. Then you add in, have mates with bagpipes, and you're well dug, aren't you? You're going to be so terrified they can go nowhere near you. But that gives you some breathing space, doesn't it? So you're going to terrify a bureaucrat, but this is all totally legal. You can do this and should be doing it to be a civic-minded member of your society. So if Birmingham is saying, well, I'm afraid, sir, for our benefit, we can't actually engage with you, well, the Lords will, the point is made, isn't it? The state cannot function in this corrupt manner. And something has to be done. But it's been a good year, to put it mildly. So now we've got the Brummies. I think probably it was all in checkmate last year, but they're now in a position where this kind of shit is coming through their laptops every day. You're looking for anybody at all who can explain themselves, and of course they can't because of the security situation they've created. So again, you choose your own adventure game. It's just, as I was saying to people over the weekend, what is our solution? How do we do this? Everyone's waving their hands in the air. Just go and find these people right here. So former members of Birmingham Labour, they vanished like Poochie in The Simpsons. So if you go and look at the episode, there's a concocted scenario created as to why this talking dog has gone from the story. And it was like that in Birmingham. So the managing director has vanished now. Oh, here's the next one. But it's because they kept getting caught. They were too dumb to actually pull off their strategy. They thought because we weren't being proactive in the court service, they'd gotten away with it. And of course, when they found out they hadn't, they're now panicking. So this is now what's going on. But they're panicking because their strategy was straight out of the communist playbook. It's a Maoist strategy. That's what this woman is doing. It's obvious based on what's what I want people to read. There we go. So, in terms of beauty, right? So, female authors, go and read Life and Death in Shanghai. This is why you never want to be around Maoists. So Maoists are basically useful, resentful cretins, like all communists. But because these people are playing a power game, they use the communications technology, of course, primitive China getting megaphones and stuff, or whatever it was, or mobs of people yelling in the streets, any kind of political organisation. And in the air, it's like a reverse bagpipe. So it's in the air becomes, go and attack these people, loot their property. That sets off waves of them doing that. And of course, that's what they were doing in Birmingham, a place with a history of race riots. My colleagues are writing reports saying this is what the local authority is doing, and the people doing it just were allowed to vanish off into the ether somewhere and were never prosecuted. So the can is kicked well and truly down the road till you've got the point where this Sovietisation is happening. But you deal with Sovietisation in a Solzhenitsyn type sense, don't you? You go back to your roots, which is Christian ethics. So if what I'm saying is wrong, this woman has a robust defence of her position. She's not actually a demon with John Cotton hiding under her boots. She's going to get on a call with her own court officer who attacks children on her behalf. So children on behalf of the state. If they're in a home where the householder hasn't paid, well then it's potentially social services, isn't it? You can't look after your own children, etc., etc. That kind of conversation. But if we're doing that with this kind of dangerous nonsense going on, what she's running is a health hazard, right? So when you write into her saying, well, madam, in a housing type sense alone, just your HRA matters, this is akin to thalidomide and Lysenkoism, this fat, ignorant hag is carrying on, then she's being, one of us is going, it's me or her, and if the British legal system can't work out whether it is me or her, then the British legal system has no authority, right? No British party is going to stay around in the city when that is going on. So we have the legitimate authority of the state, right, to deal with a woman, right? Badly behaving woman, no. Explain your statements under caution or leave, and of course, whatever criminal penalties go for her for using Birmingham University to carry on like that. But the political strategy again is the Leninist ones. They're pulling out a woman, and this is Nikki Brennan, of course, for the recordings, but we'll find one for Deborah Gentieri. Gentieri, of course, is not on the diorama because she's not really real. She's just just a brain bot. So you don't need to care what she thinks. Just bang and getting adults. But because she's a political theory woman, the strategy breaks down as soon as an adult man with a reputation in Birmingham has to answer, so they're all refusing, right? All of them. So you've got to find an honest man in Birmingham, not this woman, okay? So you go into there and take her out. You're looking presumably for the current head of the administration, which is a Liberal Democrat, I believe, and they've got to explain this kind of stuff coming through their computers via satellite, right? So can the city of Birmingham stop me from gaining access to a solicitor so I can sue John Cotton for personal damages, please? We're not talking citywide level, so we'll start small. We'll start at John Cotton's level. Can I sue this revolting little gremlinous idiot for killing a member of my family and attacking me? Can we go through a civilised, go through the legal profession like civilised people, or is Birmingham Labour going to keep trying to prevent me from gaining access to a solicitor? Because we're going down to speak with his peers about what's been going on in that city. Is this sort of gangsterish fashion how Birmingham now works? Yeah, the state at this point should hang its head in shame. I mean, you've got you literally have a bureaucrat trying to prevent members of the public communicating to say, well, again, it's fairly obvious that in a civilised society I should be able to get a straight line between me and a solicitor to deal with basic matters that affect my person, but the state is now trying to prevent me from doing that. So the law is using the computers to engage in extrajudicial violence against its citizens on behalf of the residents of Green Lane. One of the ones as well. I mean, the role of humour, of course, that was one of the ones, wasn't it, as well in Pincor's work. So Lindsay has done this very well, and of course, it's deliberately clownish in a Marcuse-like sense. So clownish forms, and we laugh at the Islamo left, and then they come to kill us. So under the prevent duty, if I'm in a Birmingham court office and I'm being locked out of rooms by Muslim gangs, and they are specifically in their meetings using intersectionality to do that, then you're just watching this dynamic play out with your computer. So Islamo-leftism is how Birmingham is now run, because they lock us out of meetings. So you've got, again, Lebanon within the political infrastructure of Birmingham. So again, you defeat Islamo-leftism by Lebanoning Birmingham via making it funny by just dealing with Birmingham Labour. So Bridget Jones, John Cotton, again, Justin Varney, Chris Naylor, Joanna Campbell, the HR team, so Darren Canning, Kate Fox, Craig Scriven, Michelle Hart, David Fern, Jennifer Southall, Helen Best, Diane Jones, Tracy Holsley and her crime family, Tim Saville, Peter Bishop. The whole cast of characters can come back and explain what they've been doing since 2020 onwards, at the sort of people who go to the Islamo-leftism conferences. But since none of the Birmingham Labour were at this kind of stuff, it's fairly reasonable that other people should just get the hell out. So, for Hollow Militaries and Real Security with Andrew Fox, it is now just the case that you're getting to building like that, and again they're saying, well, we are worried about the ex-police types doing this, but again, the state is not protecting our citizens, is it? There should be Dover, the British military police should be getting people to the boats, just returning them via the Channel Tunnel. So, out you go, down the tunnels, keep walking via a specific path, and you go back to France. If the French don't do that, then diplomatic penalties, that kind of stuff. You can easily do this, it just needs the will, but of course Labour are attacking us, so we can't do that. But if you can find any member of Birmingham Labour, please. So we've got a portal into their backside. So if you bear with me one moment, let me just make sure I've got this in the browser somewhere. So it's typical sped last minute. Don't use that browser tag on a sped. I'm looking for one with a timeout tab. Okay, yep. So there we go. So if you look for G Orwell 8484 at protonmail.com, you can find our attempts to locate the managing director. Right, this revolting. I'm sorry to do this to you, dear viewer, but oh my god, look at it. Oh god, so let's go off the screen. We send sort of scatological rants to her every day that she doesn't respond to, but because they responded to the George Orwell email account, and because these people are totally incapable of thinking, and are totally uneducated and can't discuss things in any kind of sense, then they're just dying to the Arthurian warlord. So my colleagues are wrong. Just criticise Schopenhauer's thoughts. So Kant to okay, we can be intelligent to look at God. To Schopenhauer's okay, how do we do that? You don't need to be cheerful. Just try and work things out in a Christian ethics sense, and you can condense really clever ideas into just sort of a general manner of being, which is quite functional. But yeah, so I'll go and pick up my package casually on a Monday after having gone down to the Breakdown Society panel. But anyway, you can find the managing director. Yeah, please do.